Welcome to the Soul Sanctuary, where feminine power meets $1,000,000 psychology. I'm your host, Mika B, and we're going to be discussing how we are programmed to receive a certain amount of money in our childhood based off of the experience that we saw and the environment that we were in. So I want you to get your notebook, and your pen or paper and or pencil, and really, I would say, pause this right now and ask yourself this question: what did my childhood teach me about money? And answer those questions and then come back to the rest of this episode. So what I want you to imagine is, pretty much as a child, you don't really know everything that's going on, right? We don't know to like observe our family members enough, like our caregivers or our parents, to say like, how are they with money? Like, because if money is like, if you grew up in an environment where maybe your parents were on, I don't know, like some type of like assistance. Maybe they were on, Section 8, or they were on like, food stamps and everything, right? You could be like, that it's not safe for me to be above this lifestyle. And then, even if you are like, because it could go either way, right? You could see it and you could be like, I'm never, like, it's enough, like, I would say negative motivation, like, powerful energy there to be like, I'm never going to live like this. I'll never live here, right? And you work very, very hard to keep yourself out of that type of environment. But because of the underlying subconscious beliefs around money, you will then inadvertently, subconsciously, still live financially like your parents did. And this is why you have people where they might go and they will like buy a house that's really at the top end of their budget. They'll buy cars that's on the top end of their budget because they can get the credit for it. But then, they're considered house poor or car poor because they can't do nothing else. And typically it's because those people came from an environment that exposed poverty and in a lack, I would say, consciousness when it comes to money early. So then subconsciously, they might not live in Section 8 housing or anything like that, but their experience with money and being able to be free and to have like an abundant amount of money and to prosper is still so far away from them that they're still living like their parents, if that makes sense, because they don't have the money to just go and do things. Or they might use a lot of credit. They never pay the balance off at the end of the month. So it's just like they're enslaved to debt, just like their parents were enslaved to the government. So you'll see it in many different ways. You can even do like higher middle class, the upper middle class. You'll see where they don't have a consciousness of like not really like quote unquote owing a man nothing. So their whole lifestyle is funded off of loans and credit cards that they are enslaved in. And they might go and they might still vacation a few times a year, but all of it is on credit. None of it is paid off. And my golly, if like anything happened and they didn't have access to credit, that would still be their lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's so much deeper than just looking at the outward appearance of things and saying, oh, they live in a really nice neighborhood, they must have money, right? Because what we realize is that having money and keeping money to actually be able to invest and save and spend is very different than just making money. So I really want you to look at the I would say, the money story that your childhood taught you. And it's a difference. And if you would like get on the internet, or like, you know, you could do TikTok, and like you can look at like what they consider like the rich side of TikTok or whatever, and you have children who's like over in like the Middle East or whatever, where like it's nothing for them to go and buy like a Hermes bag for a birthday party and things like that, because of the environment that their subconscious mind is being programmed in. So then like we tend to see where, you know, children of very like affluent rich people, they just keep the wealth going. It's because their nervous system was programmed that that amount of money is at least standard. That is very different from us who did not have that type of programming. So then we have to do the inner work to not just have the money mindset required for the lifestyle that we desire, but we also have to learn how to regulate our nervous system. We have to actually address those adverse childhood traumas that we have normalized through either family acceptance or parent ideology or idolization of our parents. And if you don't know anything about that, I'm going to touch on that in future episodes. But if you're a person who's like me, where I'm always like, nah, I want to read it now, I do have a guide on my website. It is an instant access guide. It goes into this in depth, and it is reparenting yourself, and it's inner child healing for wealth, business, and sales success. That actually goes into how we normalize the trauma that we experience in childhood, and then the normalization of it actually, like, I would say in a way, it hinders us from even going to address it and heal it, because we think that is normal. And then we also tend to not talk to people about the traumas and about our childhood. So we don't even realize that other people had a completely different experience than us, because we don't talk about it. And that's a whole nother episode. But I want you to start looking at this. I also have a guide, Regulate Your Way to Wealth. That's an instant access guide to on my website, because it talks about how we have to regulate our nervous systems to be safe with keeping money, attracting money, keeping it, investing it, and saving it. And that typically requires us to do a lot of unlearning from our environment, from our childhood. Because I coin it energetic entanglement, but it's the easiest way for me to explain it. What we experience in our childhood, it has little, we all have an energy field, and it I would say has little, you could say icons or little patterns, right, throughout that energy field from the traumas and things like that we experience. So then what ends up happening is that we live out the experiences of those little icons or those patterns, different people, same emotions that we feel from those experiences over and over again until we become aware of it, become aware of the loop, so we can change it. And this is why I tell you that it doesn't matter if you don't live in the same housing environment or whatever that you did as a child. What you will tend to repeat is the emotional patterns, those emotions, you know, the frustration, the anger, or the isolation, or the depression, or the anxiety. All those things, those emotions are going to be what's on repeat. Different people, different circumstances, same energetic, you know, I would say emotional energy. So that's important for you to, you know, notice as well. But I want you to really look at how different your childhood would have had to been in order for you to be safe with the desire of, you know, the amount of money, like your desired reality or the lifestyle that you want, your goals, right? what would your childhood had to look like in order for that to be normalized and standard for you? And that is your journal prompt. I didn't give you the warning this time, but that's your journal prompt. What would your childhood had to been in order for your goals, your money goals, your business goals, your sales success goals, your desired reality experience? In order for you to get that and for that to be normalized, what would your childhood have been like? And I want you to write this out as a story. And I want you to recreate your childhood through that story. And I want you to write that story down, and I want you to read that story to yourself every night before you go to bed. Do not miss a day, okay? 30-day challenge. Do that. Read that story. Write that story out, and then read that story to yourself every night before you go to bed. Because your subconscious mind doesn't know any difference from real and quote-unquote fake. Because really, it's all up to interpretation and perspective. And see the difference that you start attracting, and see how your nervous system will start allowing you to receive more money. And I also have practical application tips in the guides that I talked about. The nervous system regulation guide is all about nervous system regulation in relation to wealth attraction and safety. So that has practical applications. There's also practical applications for the reparenting yourself, inner child healing for wealth, business, and sales success guide, so that you can actually connect back to your inner child and start allowing those creative ideas and that creativity to flow. Because I believe that we all are gifted, and our creativity, our genius ideas that give us our prosperity and abundance on this earth are all implanted in us. And it's through our childlike faith. It's our childlike, quote unquote, confidence that allows us to have heaven on earth. So I am telling you, do this for yourself. This is a good practice to rebuild trust with yourself as well. Promising yourself that you're going to write the story, you write it, and you're going to read it to yourself before you go to bed every night for 30 days. Okay? And we're going to talk about in future episodes why I want you to do that, how your subconscious mind works, and all those things. From here and now, trust me. Okay? Until next time, friends, happy selling and sharing. And if this is your vibe, be sure to subscribe.